This is a load management dialogue presented by PLMA. Here you'll discover practitioner perspectives in the area of flexible load management and all things relating to that. Um, Today, let's see, move the slides. Don't forget, there's a place you can check in on our 208 or so members. Today's topic is a conversation featuring Renew Home and their work with Evergy on managing of loads, smart thermostats, and new innovative ways that they're working together in that area. Reminder, because a large number of people registered for this, that all your mics are muted as attendees. Please enter your questions through the chat function in Microsoft Teams. And with no further ado, I'm going to turn today's presentation over to Tyson Brown of Renew Home and Jeff Pratt from Evergy.
Awesome. Thank you, Rich. Nice to meet everybody. Tyson Brown. I lead utility partnerships at Renew Home. I'll pass it over to Jeff.
Thank you, Tyson. Good morning or good afternoon to everyone. My name is Jeff Pratt, DSM Product Strategy Manager here at Evergy. I've managed our residential DR program for the past several years, so looking forward to the discussion today. And I'll also add, it's an honor to be taking part in what I believe is Rich's last webinar. So I'm sure, Tyson, you share the same feelings, but we'll hope we can send Rich off on a webinar high note.
100% agree. I think it was about a decade ago that I did my first PLMA webinar, Rich. So I'm honored to have you, the departing one, have us in it as well. So
thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll start with talking about Evergy's load flexibility toolkit and where we're at today and what kind of challenges we were facing and how we collaborated with Renew Home on that. So on the next slide, we will level set just a bit here. So just as some introductory context, Evergy, we're a vertically integrated IOU serving over 1.7 million customer accounts in Western Missouri and Eastern Kansas. We have longstanding DSM programs, including both residential and C&I demand response. Of particular note today, we'll talk about our thermostat program. We have a pretty mature smart thermostat program in Missouri. It's been around for approximately 10 years. And then we have, comparatively speaking, a newer program in Kansas. It's coming up on its second birthday. So a little bit different context there with our two programs, but that's the general layout of where we're at as a company and where we are in the load flexibility space. Next slide, please. So let's talk about Evergy's approach to flexible load, why it's evolving, and what challenge we were facing. So I think, like a lot of utilities out there, we're facing immense load growth, really driven by data centers, particularly AI data centers and advanced manufacturing. And with that immense load growth, there's an increasing emphasis on demand side resources, particularly peak reduction resources. So we have two programs, one in Missouri, one in Kansas. So we had DSM program cycles that were passed in both Missouri and Kansas. And with those new program cycles came some really significant demand response goals. So with that, we needed to find some innovative solutions. We needed to figure out how to scale our programs. I'll say, our existing utility thermostat program, it's a really great program, wonderful. We have steady enrollments there. We get that steady growth, but these big goals were a real challenge for us. And from the program manager perspective, I was really thinking, okay, how are we going to hit these goals? We need to quickly scale. We need something that goes beyond what we've had. Really, we need to get innovative and figure out how to really grow our programs and hit these goals. And sure enough, conveniently, around this time where we were thinking through that, Tyson showed up and said, "Hey, we've got this new offering, new solution," and he explained it to us. And I'll turn it over to Tyson, and he can talk about the ESC offering. But it was wonderful timing for us. I'll say. Yes. We needed the growth, and Tyson showed up when we needed it.
I appreciate that, Jeff. And some of the folks on the phone may know about a decade ago, I actually sat in the same seat that Jeff is in currently. So by proxy, you just called me mature by saying that 10 years ago the thermostat program was started, even though my wife and kids would probably disagree with that maturity statement, but I definitely appreciate that. All right, next slide. So as Jeff pointed out, a decade ago, I would have loved if somebody had walked in the door and said, "Hey, would you want me to 2x the number of Nest thermostats in your DR program?" So before we talk about energy shift capacity, I just wanted to recognize that demand response is already one of the most proven and cost-effective grid resources that we have available today. So definitely appreciate that. And through Rush Hour Awards, Nest thermostats have supported utilities for more than a decade. And today that includes over 140 different utility programs across the country, and then 1.3 million customers who are participating in those. And in fact, in 2025 alone, almost $50 million in customer incentives were provided to participants by utilities. So the foundation's already there. And ESC is just kind of built to take that success and unlock even more flexible capacity moving forward. So on the next slide, we all recognize that utilities across North America have a pretty common challenge. Load growth is accelerating due to electrification, data centers, AI, manufacturing expansion, and a bunch of other stuff. But at the same time, building new generation, transmission, and distribution infrastructure takes a long time, significantly 5 to 7 years in some cases. So the question becomes, how do we access meaningful, flexible capacity in months instead of in years? So at Renew Home, we believe that the answer is to look beyond traditional enrollment models like Evergy has done and tap into the flexible load that already exists in customers' homes. So millions of homeowners today already own connected devices capable of supporting the grid. And the opportunity is not just in creating new flexibility, but it's also in unlocking flexibility that already exists and tapping into that better. So that's the challenge that energy shift capacity was designed to solve. Next slide. So I'll talk about energy shift a little bit. As part of the native device setup process, when you install a Nest thermostat, you can enable a feature called energy shift. It's a comfort-first experience that's built directly into the device itself. And it makes small personalized temperature adjustments based off a couple different factors: weather, grid conditions, energy prices, and customer preferences themselves. So the experience continuously adapts to each home. It's very personalized. And then on the output of that, customers receive the energy benefits while maintaining comfort. And that focus on comfort is what really drives participation at scale, combined with the ability to enroll in the device itself. Next slide. So from energy shifts, we get energy shift capacity, which takes that underlying feature and then it transforms it into something that utilities can use as a grid resource. So instead of asking customers to enroll in a separate program using a separate enrollment flow, utilities can access the flexibility that households already have enabled by turning on energy shift. Today, that represents more than 6 million thermostats that have turned on that feature across the US. And then based off of a white paper that it did in 2025, it translates to over 4 gigawatts of first hour summer capacity that's available, as well as several gigawatts of winter capacity as well. And the resource is pretty flexible. It's available year round. It's an 8760 resource. It's dispatchable in under 5 minutes. It's delivered through small personalized temperature adjustments that incorporate comfort. And then it's most effective typically in 1 to 2 hour situations, but can be used as long up to 8 hours as well. So pretty flexible across the board. Next slide. I'm going to pass it back over to Jeff to highlight some of the different ways that Evergy is complementing ESC and RHR. But I think the critical piece here is to recognize that both of these programs can actually coexist together. All right, Mike's back to you, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, Tyson. So yeah, I would say from the utility program manager perspective, I like having more tools in the toolbox. So as I said earlier, there's this growing emphasis on flexible load resources, having those tools in the toolbox, having more, being able to tackle more use cases, being able to dispatch in different ways. That's really helped optimize our program. So when I think about energy shift capacity and rush hour rewards, I think about how they fulfill those distinct use cases. With RHR, I see, there's real value there. We've got that utility brand recognition. We're out front, in front of customers. Really strong program. It's been around for years. It's got that strong presence in our territory and with our shared customers. So there's great value in that. And then on the other side of the coin, with this first pilot year with ESC, we're really seeing the value in that program as well. There's ESC, it's more passive, more behind the scenes, as Tyson mentioned on the last slide. You've got that that micro shift, less aggressive of a temperature setback. So really, really nice to have that alternative to the rush hour rewards program. And we've got one program in RHR where, as I said, we're out front. We're really getting there with our thermostat events, and then with ESC, we're not necessarily shouting, "Hey, we're adjusting your thermostat. There's an event," but it's really that passive approach that fulfills that second use case. And really, I'd say with this pilot summer of 2025, I can see that we're just scratching the surface on use cases for how to leverage both of these programs together. Some of the things that Tyson and I have talked about as we look at how to use these programs, you could use one program or the other to manage preconditioning or manage snapback with other demand response events. I think there's a lot of use cases that we're really going to be exploring and identifying how we can optimize best using these multiple programs in our demand response events. On the right, you'll see just some basic numbers there. So we have around 41,000 customers in our Rush Hour Rewards program. And you can see we're basically approaching that number with energy shift capacity. So as I mentioned earlier, we needed to scale at a significant pace and with significant capacity. And in one summer or 2 summers, we're basically able to match what we have in Rush Hour Rewards. So really awesome that we're able to do that. I think that's going to be of immense value as we need to continue to grow our flexible capacity. Next slide, please. So with that said, we'll take a little look at our event results from this past summer 2025, our pilot year, and we dispatched 3 times in 2025 across 31,000 different users. So really exciting to get our first dispatch in. I'll say our original aim as we were working with Tyson and team, the plan was we'll have this ready for dispatch in August. And sure enough, we're looking at the load forecast, and it looks like our projected annual peak is going to hit in the last week of July, that week of July 28th. I think July 28th was a Monday. So I'm reaching out to Tyson the week before saying, "Hey, high alert, we think we might hit our annual peak next week. Is there any way you can have dispatch ready for next week?" And credit to the Renew Home team that we were able to dispatch that week. We actually dispatched twice that week, once July 28th and once on July 29th. So you see results here from our July 28th event. We saw 35 megawatts of load reduction in that first hour. As you saw on the last slide, 1.1 kW per device. So really performance that was strong and matched what we were expecting. I was really pleased with how that first event went. Just some basics on the event parameters, 4 to 6 p.m. So that's similar. That 2-hour window is similar to how we dispatch our standard thermostat program. 90 hours of preconditioning, and then as we've talked about, that less aggressive temperature offset, 1.3 degree average for this July 28th event. With a 93-degree average outdoor temperature. And I'll also add it was really humid that day as well. I think we had dew points in the mid-70s that day. So I think that was also a driver in that 35 megawatt first hour performance we saw. So yeah, just really exciting and big that we were able to dispatch earlier than we were anticipating. We were able to get that in for our annual event or annual peak and call this event. So yeah, all in all, a success with that dispatch on July 28th. As I said, we dispatched on July 29th as well. And then later in the summer, I think August 18th, when there's an SPP, Conservative Operations Advisory. So we're able to really utilize ESC in times where we needed it from both a peak load perspective and a grid conditions perspective.
Yeah, Jeff, when you reached out to me, it was my birthday week, so I was feeling pretty generous. So I figured we could find a way to make that work for.
I appreciate that, like a reverse birthday present or something there. Just what we needed. All right, next slide, please, Rich. So now that we've taken a look at those event results, I'm just going to run through some observations and lessons learned from my perspective. I'd start with, as you can see in the left column there, consult with your utility regulatory team early in the process. That was something we certainly did. We wanted to get our team comfortable with understanding the program, the differences between energy ship capacity and our traditional thermostat program, and really, most importantly, confirm if ESC fits within the framework of an existing tariff, or will you need a new tariff, or whatever the case may be. Really run that down with your regulatory team and make sure there's a full understanding of the program and any additional work that needs to be done there. I'll say from Evergy's side, we were able to fit this within the framework of an existing tariff, so that helped, made the process smoother, and allowed us to get that earlier dispatch in place. Additionally, I'd say collaborate with your M&V provider in advance. So in the same vein as talking with your regulatory team early, get your M&V provider involved early. Make sure they understand the program structure. Make sure there's alignment on evaluation methodology. For us, the evaluation methodology for ESC is a little bit different from our other DR programs. So we wanted to make sure our M&V provider was on board early. There's a lot of data sharing that went on in this process. I'm sure Tyson could speak to that as well, but really just understanding the who, what, when, how of data transfers. We had a lot of collaboration between us at Evergy, our M&V provider, ADM Qualis, and Renew Home. So definitely some more effort there, and some additional challenges just thinking about that data sharing that I mentioned and address matching. But I think with the collaboration between all the parties, we're able to ensure that the evaluation methodology was in place, and we had that alignment. I'm not sure, Tyson, if you'd say anything else about that evaluation process, not to put you on the spot.
All good. No, I think it was pretty streamlined. To your point, I think, communication up front is key, and just coordinating and frequent collaboration made it pretty streamlined. I mean, again, to go from discussing a program to implementing a program to launching a program to evaluating a program all within the same calendar year, I think it's pretty impressive. So, huge kudos to the ADM team, to the Evergy team, folks at Renew Home supported that as well. But yeah, I'd say just, constant, frequent communication, as much as you can stand the other people you're around. So thankfully, you didn't mind talking to me too much. So
that's all right. All right, I think we can move to the next slide, please. So yeah, what's next for Evergy and Renew Home? I'll start off here, really just building on that successful pilot. We had that pilot summer of 2025, and really looking forward and establishing that full-scale multi-year demand flexibility program. And additionally, as I mentioned earlier, continuing to identify the use cases for ESC, how it interacts with our other DR programs, really finding how we can optimize our various programs within our DR portfolio to maximize and optimize our performance. Then I'd also say really identifying how we can grow ESC. I think a big part of what we've done with Renew Home, there's really been strong collaboration with Renew Home and Google as an OEM partner. So really continuing to build on that collaboration, and identifying how we can grow the program, identifying how we can maximize the program. I think the dynamic is a little bit different now with a program such as ESC, where in the past, if there's a Nest thermostat that's out there in the wild and it's not part of our program, then it's of relatively little value to us. It's a thermostat or a customer that we want to market to and try to get into our program. But now there's value there, both if that customer joins the RHR program, or if they are just using the Nest Renew feature, and we're able to utilize that thermostat for DR through ESC. So changing dynamic there, and looking forward to more collaboration with the Renew Home team. A couple of other, no, go ahead, Tyson.
No, I was just saying 100% agree with you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, a couple of other items we're looking forward to next. We're exploring a structure for rewarding ESC participants for their participation in these events. So yeah, definitely running a few details down there, but I think there's a lot of potential there in figuring out how do we reward ESC customers for their event participations. Looking forward to working through that and the future there. And then lastly, Evergy, we're going to be using the Renew Home VPP portal for scheduling ESC dispatches this summer 2026. So that's exciting. Last summer, that pilot era was really more of a bootstrapped kind of situation. I was really just reaching out to Tyson by email and saying, hey, we needed an event on this day and this time, or hey, we're tracking these days. And I feel like we got the Tyson white glove treatment just with that whole process. So Tyson, sadly, we're not just going to be emailing you all the time to
You
say.
still can. I mean, to be clear, you've got keys to the portal now. And we just actually released a new release that has more forecasting capabilities. But by all means, feel free to email or text me. I'm happy to be there for you too.
Good to know. Good to know. So yeah, we might reach out to you just for fun, but we will be dispatching out of the portal as well. So looking forward to having that enhancement there and utilizing the portal and. Yeah, really excited for our first ESC dispatch of 2026. I know I'm sure like many of the utilities out there, first day of your summer DR season was yesterday. So we're no DR events this week, I don't think, but we're looking forward to our first ESC dispatch at some point this summer and seeing what kind of performance we get.
Totally agree. All right, do we want to pop in the questions?
Yeah.
Let's see. I think I can take this first one. All right. What was the second hour load reduction and was there a third hour snapback? So I want to say across the 3 events. So in the first event, it was 47 megawatts for the first hour, 32 megawatts across the 2-hour average. And then the second event, it was 26 hours across the 2-hour average, and the third event, 27 megawatts across the 2-hour average. So hopefully that is helpful. And then I don't know if you want to take this one or I take this one. There's a reference to shift, but dispatch and event feel more like shed type resource activity. Do you want to take it or you want me to take it?
Yeah, I'd say from my perspective, that's probably in part just that I'm used to saying, dispatch an event, and that's the background I come from. So yeah, there's certainly that more of that micro shift activity with ESC where it's really more minimal impact on like customer comfort or how the customer experiences the event. So I'd say largely I'm saying dispatch an event because that's the lens I view it from. But Tyson, you can probably speak to some of the distinctions there with the micro shifts and how you see the difference between an ESC shift versus an RHR event.
Yeah, and that actually segues into the next question a little bit. So from the user's perspective, when they enable energy shift, that's almost kind of a daily optimization that takes place. So almost on a daily basis, they're seeing some type of shift that takes place between 15 and 30 minutes roughly. That is based off of either a TOU rate that they've input or a carbon intensity signal on the grid. Whenever Evergy is taking over and they dispatch an energy shift capacity event, from Jeff's perspective, again, it's just a little bit of semantics. It's more of a dispatch of an event, whereas from the user perspective, it still looks identical to what they would have received from an energy shift, which is part of the reason why attrition is so low. Attrition is typically less than 5% for energy shift capacity compared to the traditional DR, which it could be a little bit higher than that. And there's not a lot of kind of call center impacts or anything related to that as well. Jeff, did you all get a single call into your call center over the course of these 3 events?
No, none that had been brought to my attention. So yeah, I think very minimal impact from a customer experience perspective.
Totally. And then to the next question around what the first hour load impacts were comparative for rush hour awards to energy shift capacity. I think we touched on that in one of the earlier slides, but it's like 1.1 kW for the first hour for energy shift capacity versus like 1.3 or 1.4 kW for rush hour awards. So, relatively close in terms of like load impacts, but with very different kind of user experiences and how that works. So it balances out kind of the comfort of the customer as well as like what Evergy's needs are there as well. And then do you want to take the M&V question, and then I can add on to that.
Yeah. So from an MNV methodology standpoint, as I mentioned, a little bit different process compared to our other DR programs here, but the M&V methodology was really telemetry-based M&V, and our M&V provider working with Renew Home, confirming that customers we dispatched to were Evergy customers, and then Tyson, you may be able to speak to the RCT aspect of the M&V and some of the additional details there. So I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Yeah, so for every event that Evergy runs or any utility runs of energy shift capacity, Renew Home actually runs a randomized control trial along with that, so that we have all the plot graphs and the counterfactuals to show and demonstrate the performance we actually delivered to Evergy. There's a post-season M&V that takes place. For Evergy specifically, it was telemetry based. We also have the ability to do AMI level validation. We've done that with a couple of utilities as well. We've got some evaluations with Guidehouse and a couple other folks that we've done related to AMI. So yeah, there's, during the season, the portal itself has the ability to produce reporting that is RCT based. And then post-season, we can work with the evaluator and the utility and what other stakeholders are involved to get either telemetry based or AMI level validation, whatever the preference is.
And I'd add part of that M&V collaboration between all the parties. So we dispatched by zip code. So there's that collaboration needed with all of the parties to ensure that, okay, since not all of our zip codes are entirely within Evergy service territory, just ensuring that from an M&V perspective, we're only counting the customers or the thermostats that are within our service territory.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, so there's an address matching process that takes place on the front end of the implementation, to Jeff's point, where we identify which of the devices sit squarely within Evergy service territory and our Evergy customers, so that we can make sure that Evergy is only dispatching to folks that are theirs appropriately. I can touch on the reward structure question real quick. So the reward structure that we're envisioning, we would run the energy shift capacity events over the course of this summer, and then kind of post-season, we would send out a notification to everybody who participated, letting them know that they've participated, offering up an opportunity for them to get rewarded for the contributions. They would need to agree to Evergy's terms and conditions in order to receive that incentive. So we would actually have the ability, based off of the terms and conditions that they're agreeing to share data back to Evergy to validate that they are Evergy customers. So we've gotten some creative ways to solve for that. Given the magnitude and scalability of curtailment here, can you speak to how this is communicated to and utilized by grid operators and generation resource dispatch? That sounds like a Jeff question. I could answer it, but I want Jeff's response.
I can take that one. Yeah, Tyson. I'd say in many ways, it really functions within our existing DR framework and how we coordinate with internal teams like generation resources and grid operations. So we have from the Evergy side, we meet every week in the summer with a pretty cross-collaborative, cross-functional team array of different teams within Evergy, including that market operations and generation operations team. So when we have an ESC dispatch, we're including that just as we do normally, like we would with our other programs, where we're letting those teams know, hey, we're dispatching these resources. These are the expected megawatts. So they have that team has full insight, and we worked with Tyson and the Renew team prior to that first dispatch to make sure we had an idea of what kind of capacity we were working with, understanding the customer count, understanding like the expected KW per device. So we had a pretty good idea going into that first event of the impact. And then when we do dispatch or have that micro shift, we're just including that in the list of DR resources that we're dispatching for that day and communicating that across to our internal teams on what we expect capacity to be.
Awesome. That's exactly what I would have said, Jeff. I can take this next one. Do you have staggered dispatch across different subgroups of customers to smoothen the impact from snapback? So for the 2025 pilot, I think we, for all intents and purposes, did all calls of all the devices that were available. That said, Jeff alluded to this a little bit earlier, but different utilities have different use cases. So something that Jeff will have access to this year via the portal is the ability to stagger dispatch across those subgroups. So you can assign up to 10 attributes to a device. It could be, feeder, substation, rate class, a bunch of different things, like whatever the preference is of the utility, you can leverage it for locational dispatch and other things so that you can dispatch to smaller segments of the overall population. That also gives you the ability to potentially stagger them as well. Jeff mentioned kind of snapback mitigation is a use case that you could leverage this for if you weren't trying to utilize the traditional BYOT program in conjunction with ESC and you wanted to basically use like your traditional DR program for the first and second hour. And as you start to see kind of degradation of participation in the third and fourth hour, you can use energy shift capacity to try to flatten that load shape. Or you can use energy shift capacity at the end of an event to kind of mitigate any snapback. You can also use it on the front end of a pre-cooling event or traditional DR event to mitigate any of the pre-cooling that's taking place as well. So again, because it's an 87.6 resource, it's pretty flexible. You have a lot of at-bats that you can leverage ESC for, so you can find different ways to kind of integrate it into your demand stack and then figure out how you can utilize it appropriately. So anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'd say, like you said, Tyson, this pilot season last summer, we really dispatched everything same time as our other resources. And how our DR is evaluated currently is really focused on that first hour performance. So that's kind of our bread and butter there. But as DR methodology may change in SPP, we're a member of SPP over the coming years. So I'm looking forward to identifying some of these other use cases, the snapback mitigation that Tyson mentioned, or kind of any other use cases that might fit future SPP methodologies more closely. I think there's a lot of potential there, and looking forward to figuring out how we can maximize that performance and really optimize our programs.
Definitely. All right. I can take the next one. I love all these questions, by the way. Keep them coming.
Yeah.
How's the reward different compared to customers enrolled in the demand response program? Same, less, or higher? So we're still working out a little bit of the details as it relates to that. I think we'll end up with a reward that's slightly less than what you get from a traditional DR event, DR program, I should say, for this season. But some of those details are still being fleshed out with the Evergy team. Thanks for the clarification about two types of response. Is the magnitude of response actually different from event days versus non-event days? Is the shed shift actually incrementally increased load curtailment? I can take this one and you can layer onto this. Yes, so it is. So I mentioned we have, randomized control trials that we're running constantly. That's part of what kind of drove the results that came out of our white paper in 2025. So it is incremental to whatever you would be seeing from a traditional day where you're not running an event. If energy shifts are running, we actually we mitigate the energy shifts impacts as part of the RCT kind of methodology to ensure that whatever we're showing Evergy is the actual impacts we're seeing from those events themselves. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
No, I don't think so. That feel like answers the question well. Nothing I'd add.
Were there any concerns about the accuracy of connected load assumptions in a telemetry-based M&V? This may be like a philosophical question for Jeff if he had concerns about whether Tyson was telling the truth or not. But before you give that answer to the world, as I mentioned, we've done AMI validation, AMI level evals as well. We did one with a utility on the Southwest, and we saw a 1.18 realization rate with AMI level validation. So I think that speaks to the accuracy of it. But Jeff, any thoughts on the telemetry-based approach?
Yeah, I'd say from the program management perspective, we really rely on our third-party M&V evaluator to perform that evaluation. They've done some studies on load and HVAC size and that sort of stuff within our service territory. So really trusting in the research and background they have in working with our programs, working within our service territory, and then really leaving it up to them to perform the evaluation. Obviously, like we mentioned, a lot of collaboration just with the data and the process between Renew Home, between Evergy, between our evaluator. So I think at the end of the day, is a slightly different process. So there's always a little bit of concern for something new, but at the end of the day, I think I feel confident about the results that we got and the accuracy, and having that third party evaluator really helps bolster that confidence, because we know there's pros that are looking at it, that they are experts in that, and I tend to trust what they say.
I agree. I trust the experts as well. I'm also not very good at math, so I definitely have to trust the experts. Can you explain the difference between customer experience for RHR compared to ESC? As I understand that ESC is designed to be more comfortable for the customer. Great question. So the experience is slightly different. In a traditional, rush hour rewards event, when Jeff schedules an event, there would be a notification that goes out to all the participants, letting them know that an event has been scheduled and that one's going to take place. When the event takes place, it shows up on the app as well as in the thermostat itself, letting them know that an event is ongoing. A little gold cog pops up. If you were to opt out of an event, as you try to opt out of the event, a little speed bump pops up that asks you, like, are you sure you want to do that? Like, Jeff really needs this today. And then you can decide if you don't care about Jeff's feelings or if you want to stay in the event. For ESC, it's slightly different. As I mentioned, these energy shifts that are smaller, more shallow, specific to carbon intensity on the grid or TOU rate, if you've input that, the little green leaf pops up and it just says that it's shifting energy by 1 degree or 2 degrees, depending on what it's doing. It's personalized comparative to rush hour rewards, which is just a flat offset. So when an ESC event takes place, the only thing a user sees is that little green leaf pop up that they see pretty much every day. There's no event notification. There's, just a little green leaf in the app and on the thermostat saying it's shifting 1 degrees or 2 degrees. And if you wanted to opt out of an event, you just simply turn the dial and it opts out. There's no speed bump. Even that being said, we typically see, event overrides of less than 5% as well. So 75% of people who install an S thermostat are enrolling or enabling energy shift. Less than 5% of folks who enable energy shift turn it off, and then less than 5% of people who participate in energy shift capacity events override it as well. So anything to add to that on the Evergy side?
Yeah, I just say I mentioned it earlier in the presentation, but from my perspective, certainly appreciate having these programs that have that different customer experience, slightly different way to go about utilizing them as a flexible resource. So it's always nice. I believe I said earlier, having those multiple tools in the toolbox. So yeah, I think there's definitely a value in having those different customer experiences, and with that different customer experience, a different way the product or solution can be dispatched.
Certainly. And I think another added benefit is because it is more comfort focused and there's less kind of notifications going out to the customer. It gives you the ability to leverage it more frequently. So you could use, a traditional DR program on a Monday, then you could call ESC on Tuesday, traditional DR on a Wednesday, ESC on a Thursday if you needed. So like if you had an extended heat wave. Next question, what is the counterfactual you are considering based on the fact that there may have been TOU and or GHG events in prior seasons? Hi, David. So the counterfactual is baked into the kind of randomized control trial results that we're providing as part of the portal and that we provided to Evergy last year. It does take into account any energy shifts that are running. If you run a traditional DR event and a customer is also enabled energy shift, it actually cancels out into the energy shifts that would have ran over the 12 hours of whenever an RHR event would be running. And you cannot participate in rush hour rewards and energy shift capacity. But we do take into account both TOU and the GHG events in any of the counterfactuals, as well as having the control group there to kind of baseline that also. And then, hi, Beth. Related to the question of difference in shed between types of events, can you confirm the impact of ES without the utility directing it? Is the utility already getting benefit from energy shift customers? And is the ESC incremental to that? Yes, so it is incremental. The energy shifts are primarily for the customers themselves. Again, it's the TOU rate, so it's enabled to follow whatever their TOU rate is today, or it's the carbon intensity on the grid. Those shifts are shallower. They happen kind of disparately throughout the day, dependent upon each individual home. So like a Tyson energy shift may be at like 8 a.m. to like 8:30 a.m. And like Jeff may see one from 10 a.m. to 10:15 a.m. And Beth, you may have one from like 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. But they're happening kind of disparately across the entire service territory. Whenever you turn on energy shift capacity or whenever a utility dispatches an energy shift capacity event, it's coincident. So instead of Tyson, Jeff, and Beth having different times that their events are taking place, it's all happening at the same time and it's longer in duration and deeper in impact. So instead of it being, 15-minute event that takes place at 8 a.m., it's all of the devices at 4 to 6 p.m. running for 1 to 2 hours or whatever the kind of configuration for that event would be. So ES is more for the customer and ESE is more for the utility. Do you see any value in real-time hourly pricing or day-ahead hourly pricing? You want to take this one first, Jeff?
Yeah, I'd say from Evergy's side, we currently don't dispatch our DR resources for, like with pricing signals. So there may be value with that in the future for us. I'm sure Tyson can speak to some of the other landscapes out there where the hourly or price signal dispatches may make more sense. I'd say currently not something that we're doing with how we use ESC, but may be a value in the future. So I definitely want to continue exploring, what kind of opportunities are there for Evergy. But Tyson, I'll turn it over for you to talk about the broader landscape with the real-time hourly pricing and price signals there for ESC.
Awesome. I answered this question and I see Rich jumped on, so I'm guessing this is the last question I get to answer. So yeah, it is a use case that we've had a couple different utilities evaluate as well. They look at it from this perspective, also from like an O&M reduction perspective. So again, because of the fact that customers can enable the TOU rate, that's one way for it to shift. But also if the utility can, determine when they want the events to run, it gives them the ability to kind of look at what the real time or day ahead markets look like and shift that consumption or that load kind of outside of those windows. But Rich, take it away.
So thanks, guys. I'm going to take this opportunity to thank Tyson and Jeff, and everybody take a good look at this picture. I think that's Jeff's new hire picture, probably from when he started at Kansas City Power and Light. And so anyway, so thank you guys for the time you took today for this dialogue. I think it was really illuminating for a lot of folks to help understand some of the other things and opportunities that might be out there in the burgeoning space that still exists around smart thermostats. In addition, for those of you that joined, or want to come back to this or want to share it with a friend or whatever the case may be, these are all recorded and kept as podcasts. So wherever you get your podcasts, you can find the PLMA Load Management Dialogues, as well as you can go to our YouTube channel where you can also see, Jeff and Tyson's, pictures and conversations relative to all that, as well as the slides. So again, YouTube, PLMA, FLM, or you can go to wherever you get your podcasts. In addition, just a reminder for everybody, PLMA captures member news over the course of time as it's submitted from our members. You can go out to our about on the website, flexload.org, and find latest news. You'll see things ranging from job postings, press releases, and even our utility RFPs lots of times are out there as well. And then just one final reminder here that we are in the window right now for call for presentations for the fall conference. So it's been, and you get till June 15th. So those of you have cool things like what Jeff and Tyson just talked about that you think would be worthwhile conversation at the fall conference in Seattle, your window's open till June 15th. Angelica's going to drop in the chat a link to take you there. But also, if you want to go blunder to it later, you go through flexload.org, you find events, and you find underneath there the fall conference. Right now, the only thing you can do with the fall conference is submit an abstract, right? Because it's not time to sign up for it yet, because we need to know what we're going to talk about first. So along those lines, that is your opportunity, to try to get on the agenda there. And then in addition, finally, I just want you to be aware that, you've been listening to a load management dialogue presented by PLMA. To learn about upcoming dialogues, visit the PLMA calendar at flexload.org. This concludes this edition. I want to thank everybody for the time you took today to join us. We had over 80 people online at one point in time, and we look forward to the next time you can join us at a PLMA event. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody who joined.
Thank you, Rich.